We're seeing more and more students experiencing anxiety, depression, and even self-harm ideations tied to digital interactions that they're having, which are often exacerbated by social media portrayals or online peer conflicts that escalate while they're not in school. And these crises are occurring even more earlier and more frequently, even in upper elementary grades these days.
You're listening to the smartsocial.com podcast. This is our District Talk segment where we interview district leaders to learn how they're keeping students safe on social media. And we also ask them questions that we get from parents all over the country in our program. Now, let's get back to the interview.
Hello, my name is Dr. Thomas McBryde Jr. I'm the proud superintendent of Hackensack Public Schools, located in Hackensack, New Jersey. We have about 5,300 students across 8 schools throughout our district.
Superintendent, it's so great to have you here today as we talk about keeping students safe on social media so they can become successful as they learn at home and at school. And they can someday, when the parents are ready, they can shine online to get that dream job, career, and everything else. We're honored to all of our listeners here today. Listeners, whether you're a parent, an administrator, or a superintendent yourself, we've got a bunch of key takeaways here. And not just if you live in New Jersey, where our amazing expert guest is today, but also you can live in just about any one of the 40 states that our podcast has guests in, and you're going to get tips and techniques that you can use in your community. I'm excited to dive on in. Now, Superintendent, I want to do just a little bit of something that we're looking at with other districts. Superintendent, I'd love to ask you a question based on our 200 other superintendent podcast episodes and discussions. After these 200 superintendent conversations, we've heard a consistent trend that I'd love your input on. Now, we're hearing that students are growing up in a digital world filled with powerful technology, AI, and social media, but they lack the maturity and the guidance to use it safely. The result is more student absences, lower focus, rising cyberbullying, declining self-esteem, and AI misuse in the classroom. I mean, I'm going to be honest with you, even as adults, it's hard, right? You've got Outlook pinging you as we speak. I've got my phone, and it's all part of like modern day. But here's what we're hearing. Parents are trying so hard to raise not just good kids, but great kids in a world they didn't grow up in. A world where now technology moves faster than safety policies in some case, Superintendent. And we're hearing that teens know how to hide apps and online behavior. They're very clever. And safety lessons sometimes come after a crisis because there's a new crisis we didn't know that we had to protect from. Superintendent, I'd love your advice. Are there any other trends on this topic that you've seen so we can alert other districts nationwide before they see them? Or did I get anything wrong? Please correct me and give us some of your insights.
Not at all. I can definitely affirm the trends you've identified. We've seen them here across our school and within neighboring districts as well. And I think there's kind of been an escalation even in student mental health crisis linked to online behavior. We're seeing more and more students experiencing anxiety, depression, and even self-harm ideations tied to digital interactions that they're having, which are often exacerbated by social media portrayals or online peer conflicts that escalate while they're not in school. And these crises are occurring even more earlier and more frequently, even in upper elementary grades these days. We're also having some challenges here with some increased sophistication in circumventing some of our school technology filters. We definitely know our students are very, very savvy, and they're even utilizing VPNs, secondary devices, and browsers extensions to kind of bypass some of the filters that we put in place for protection, which can sometimes undermine. So when we think about like the erosion of authentic learning due to AI misuse, we're seeing that a lot of our students are utilizing ChatGPT more often. And so we're seeing the rise instances where students are relying solely on the technologies itself. And for full assignments where we're trying to prioritize critical thinking and original writing, teachers are having a difficult time being able to foster and facilitate that due to the fact that, we have all these tools and resources that our students are taking advantage of. And so we're here in Hackensack, we've been prioritizing how do we get parents to be a part of the conversation as well with the teachers to figure out how we are supporting our students utilize technology more in a more productive and effective way. But we found that oftentimes a lot of our parents don't even know what digital platforms we utilize or our students are utilizing from time to time, which make it hard for them to be able to monitor or support those things as well. And so this disconnect really widens the gap between home and some of our schools' expectations. And so we realized that here in Hackensack as well that, we didn't start our digital citizenship programs until middle school. But we realize now that's a little bit too late. But we're seeing now to introduce these concepts even in our K-2, because if you go to a lot of our classrooms, a lot of parents at home, students are on devices as early as 6 months sometime, and they know how to utilize it better than we do. So those are some of the trends that we're seeing in addition to the things that you talked about earlier. And I think one of the priorities for us is making sure that we're being more proactive and really rolling out our digital citizenship curriculum that prioritizes safe utilization of technology and outlines our expectations around how it should be utilized in classrooms and teaching effective habits on how you should be engaging when they are on these platforms to help to minimize some of the situations that we are having happening as a result of so much technology being utilized in non-productive ways.
I learned a couple things from you. I wrote down increased sophistication. You're describing how clever kids are at getting around things with VPNs. I think that's such a classy way to say they're very clever and they're very kids are entrepreneurial. I think everyone listening to this episode today goes, "Yeah, my kid or my students are able to get around things. They're very very bright and which we want to harness." And then another thing you said, and as I used to be superintendent, one of the top social media safety speakers nationwide. I've been to New Jersey several times to speak to middle schools and high schools. And a lot of parents, a lot of the school districts used to say, well, we only want to talk to the high schoolers or we only talk to middle schoolers. And then my simple question for them, which is so much in line with what you just said, is that's great. But when are you giving kids some screen time? Well, as early as one. Okay, so should we go back a little bit into elementary school to start talking with them about these things? So I love how you said that because I do think that's a reasonable way to do it. Okay, so for all of our audience right now, you know that one of the biggest ways that Smart Social is able to deliver a lot of these safety programs is by asking real parents questions and then answering them, whether it's experts like our expert guest here today or real teens. Now, parents are often asking us, hey, Josh, what advice would you give a student to help them recognize some of the red flags of a dangerous stranger online, a predator or someone else? Well, let's hear from a real student about how she might help a friend recognize these red flags.
If I had a friend talking online to a stranger, I think that I would feel a little bit uncomfortable with the whole situation. I would advise against it because so many indirect issues can come from that, and it could cause something to be worse than if they had just unadded them in the first place. Some red flags that I would have to advise them to cut it off with this person or to stop engaging would be if the person starts to get very involved in their personal life and they seem to be very intrigued in what's going on with them and wanting to know all the little details about what they do and who they are and just very personal details and things that you wouldn't normally share with a stranger in real life. If they're very persistent and constantly wanting to talk to my friend or constantly trying to be involved in their life or wanting to speak to them, I feel like that's kind of a red flag. Another thing would be if they ask them to ever meet them anywhere in person right from the start, if they feel a sense of being uncomfortable or their intuition is just saying it's wrong, or if my intuition is saying something feels wrong with this, then I think that's a major red flag.
Now, parents, remember we have weekly live online virtual events. You can join from the DMV line if you want. You can listen in at any time. And we do that because we do them weekly, 50 times a year. So you're never left behind. There's a replay if you register. If your school district is a partner, register for our next one. There's giveaways. Each week we give away Bluetooth speakers and 3D printers and Kindles to promote more family, STEM education, positive reading, and music. We have teen-led video lessons in the program, so don't miss out if your district's a partner. And we have a premium parent newsletter. Here's exactly what we want to happen in your community. This is what happens when it goes right, when parents attend. This is my friend Deron Wilson, and this is out of New York. You are the one that needs to decide whether it's too much screen time or just right.
But parents and teachers know when it comes to teenagers and social media, that's easier said than done. So, in an effort to protect students from the dangers of being chronically online, schools are doing something you might not expect, asking parents to get online too.
It makes an awareness to parents and students. It also gives them an understanding of some of the warning signs.
That's just one reason why Deron Wilson, an executive director of school engagement, says his district uses the app Smart Social. It's an online app designed to educate parents and students on how to avoid strangers and dangerous situations online.
Kind of like, I want to say, a trap. When you get involved in the cyberbullying, like you might start friending somebody on an app, or somebody might say, hey, they might send me your picture.
Smart Social founder Josh Oakes says while there are a lot of things that can and should scare us online, the increased number of parents he is able to reach underscores the importance of growing social gathering spaces online.
Back in the day, I used to be one of the top social media safety speakers nationwide, but I was flying around to certain school districts and they're the best of intentions, but only 20 or 30 parents would show up. We get 10 times the amount of parents to show up, and they want to learn from the convenience of their home or office how to keep their kids safe on social media. They want to ask live questions. They want to learn how to have dialogue starters with their kids that actually get their kids excited about talking with their parents and strengthening that relationship.
Darcy Wertique, Spectrum News.
So parents, remember, every single month is a little bit different. We've got lots of different events. Our October is our biggest anti-bullying program we've ever done, and maybe one of the biggest in the country. There's 4 or 5 different chances to join. September is all about video apps. August is AI for student success. Okay, so Superintendent, I want to dive back into you. In addition to these 200 plus conversations that we've had just over the last year and a half or so with your peers nationwide and in almost every state in the country, we've heard this from communities as well. And maybe your community's perfect, Superintendent, but I'd love your insight on this. Many parents are saying that they feel overwhelmed trying to keep up with these fast-moving online trends and digital safety risks. And we've heard that students are sometimes finding ways to increase their screen time and bend the rules, especially when the expectations at school differ significantly from those at home, especially over the summer. Superintendent, what trends or pain points are you seeing when it comes to parent engagement during the school year? And where do you feel families are struggling the most to stay informed or connected?
I always answer the parent question with my undying belief that all parents want the absolute best for their children. I think when you think about this topic, people have all kinds of ideas about why parents are engaged or not, but I believe that most parents are doing the very best that they can with what they have. But we are here experiencing the same challenges around how we are effectively engaging our parents. And those are some of the trends that we're seeing throughout our district and neighboring districts. And so we talk about the idea of being inundated with information. That's one of the stressors that we hear a lot of our parents saying, that they're constantly getting emails, texts, app notifications, and on top of their own work life demands. So even when messages are important, they oftentimes get lost in some of the noise of all of that information being thrown at them. And so we found that fewer, more personalized touch points, especially those tied to their student-specific experience, are more effective than the broad outreach every day, notifying them of every little thing that's actually happening at the school. We also notice that there's kind of an uneven digital literacy among our parents. We have some parents who are very, very familiar and very comfortable with technology, while some are not as tech savvy and unfamiliar with all of the emerging apps and platforms that their children are utilizing. I myself, I like to think that I'm somewhat savvy, but every week there's a new something out, and I was like, okay, let me get on top of that so I'm also aware. And I think this creates a barrier when schools discuss digital safety or AI misuse. Parents don't feel equipped because sometimes we don't even feel equipped because we don't know all of the new things that are happening, the new hot thing that's happening out that particular week. You talked about this idea about mismatched expectations between home and school. And I think some of our disconnect is that we aren't really always clear with our school policies and being able to communicate that in effective ways for parents to be able to understand, what our expectations are here around device usages or academic integrity, which may differ for what's actually happening at home. And, students are, again, savvy, so they may sometimes exploit this gap, especially when parents are unsure how to reinforce those same barriers at home if we're not having those conversations to make sure we're all on the same page. And engagement is often crisis-driven, not relationship-driven here. Many of our parents are engaging when they've been identified about a problem that's actually happening. So schools need to be a little bit more proactive with developing relationship building strategies, especially for those families who may feel somewhat intimidated, marginalized, or unsure of how they can participate meaningfully in these discussions.
Mm-hmm.
We have a high multicultural population here in Hackensack. And we found that for many of our multilingual or immigrant families, even the most well-intended engagement efforts can fall short if communication isn't culturally responsive or accessible in their home language. And so we're feeling that families need the most support with understanding the why behind some of these policies, not just the what. Some practical tools themselves that they can use to manage technology at home, whether it be understanding about filters and time limits, or even how to broker the conversations about what their expectations are around the cutoff of when, there should be no more utilization of your phone or laptop. They need some more support around how clarity about how to navigate the educational system and advocate for their children, especially in our secondary grades. And just a consistent two-way communication that values their voice and not just their attendance, because sometimes we want to say, oh, we had 100 people show up, but did they really have a meaningful learning or engaging experience as a result of it, as opposed to just a number? And some of the things that we've done here that's actually helped us is that we're hosting digital wellness nights with student panels and tech demonstrations, using multi-family liaisons for trusted outreach. We instituted what we call parent coordinators, and we want to make sure that they have the tools and resources to be able to engage and have a connection with our families, and language is not a barrier for them. But even offering some brief, informal parent power sessions before or after school, because we know time, you can't just have one set time on in the evening, because that may not work for parents who work at night. So providing them with alternative options to be able to get the information and support. I mean, that's how you build family engagement into the culture of our school and our district, and not just as a somewhat event on a calendar.
Yeah, so true. I love that. I wrote a bunch of that down. Digital wellness nights, tech demonstrations, super great. And then I just love that phrase you used earlier, increased sophistication. But also, I mean, as all the parents listening right now, Superintendent, there's increased technology issues because things are moving faster. You and I are pretty tech savvy, but we have to now not only be educators and nurture resilient kids, but we have to be really good at doing research very fast on these new trends, right?
Indeed.
And kids are a little more savvy. Let's be honest. No offense. You're young and vibrant, but these kids are really savvy, and there's no downside. I like to remind all of our audience, it's not that your kids like to break things. It's just they don't really have to pay for it if it does break. So they'll click the buttons faster than anything else, right? And they'll just go, hey, just do this. And they have no fear there. My final question for you there, Superintendent, is what would a good dialogue starter or tip for parents to engage their kids so we can do that at home over the summer or back to school? What's a good dialogue starter so parents can open up that dialogue with their kiddos and have that strong relationship with them?
Well, I think it's first, just like students, to be curious, to kind of understand and ask what platforms are their student on, or their children on, and then have that conversation about and why they're utilizing specific resources. I think opening that conversation will get a lot of information for parents to kind of figure out how to navigate that conversation, because at the end, once you kind of learn more about what they're doing, why they're doing, and how they're engaging, interacting with these particular tools, platforms, then you can have the conversation about what your expectations are around, utilization of these particular things, or understanding that, no, this is not a site that I want you utilizing. And then more specifically, figuring out how are you monitoring it. I think that's also a piece, because you can, get the information, you can set the expectation, but if you aren't actually being proactive and having very clear opportunities to monitor your students, or your children specifically, then I think it's for naught. So I think those three components will help to kind of open up and also help to parents to kind of learn more about what's hot and what's not, and what people are utilizing, so that they are in the know.
I love that. What's hot and what's not. Hey, Superintendent, thank you so much for your time here today. We appreciate you joining us.
Thank you so much as well. I appreciate it.
For all of our listeners here today, whether you're a parent, a superintendent, or anyone in between, Smart Social loves you. That's why we host these 50+ live weekly online events. There's not a week that goes by where we don't have something to help you. Also, giveaways to make it fun, and you can bring your kids to our events. They'll roll their eyes less at you, and they'll look at us and go, huh? And for some reason, we don't know why, but we have heard nationwide, kids seem to trust an outside expert, and we want to be that expert for you. Vetted, trusted, background checked, and we've got the best, amazing people doing the research for you and real teens in the program. We love you. We appreciate you. Join one of our next event. We have some incredible summer streaming series that talk about improving your kids' motivation over the summer while reducing their screen time, bringing parents together. A lot of great things. And you might even have a chance to win a Kindle, a 3D printer, or a Bluetooth speaker. So join us at smartsocial.com. And parents, no matter what you do, remember to keep it light, bright, and polite, because your kids are watching what you're doing online. We'll see all of you on the next episode. I'm Josh Oakes, the host and the founder of smartsocial.com. Have a great rest of the day. Thanks for listening to the smartsocial.com podcast. Smart Social helps parents understand technology and social media to keep their kids safe and successful. Be sure to join one of our weekly online live events to become the smartest parent on the block so you can keep your kids safe and protect their future. Also, don't miss our 450 plus online resources and replays you can watch on demand in multiple languages. Are you a school district wanting to unlock these resources for your parents? Reach out to us so we can protect your whole community each week. Have a great rest of the day, and we'll see you on the next episode.